Handcrafted in the UK and packing a ton of sounds within their relatively small package. Let's check out the Black Country custom pedals from Laney. The Black Country Customs line of pedals are designed by Laney, and there are a few within that line, including some pedals for bass and some for guitar. I'm primarily going to be focusing on the guitar pedals today, in particular these four that are just on the cabinet in front of me here. So there is quite a lot to be getting on with, so I'm not going to do that big of an intro or anything like that. I'm really just going to be diving right in with all the sounds of these pedals. But if I was to kind of summarize just what each of these are doing, each one of them are three sounds in one kind of pedals. You're getting three modes with each of these. As you can see, they are a very, very similar layout within them. So as soon as you kind of get to understand one of them, you'll know the other ones too. But by all means, if there is a particular one in the line that you want to see, I'm going to be starting with the distortion, moving on to the boost, then onto the chorus, and then into the reverb as well. So check the description below or the timeline if you do just want to check one of those as well. And by all means, keep an eye on the channel also, because we will be doing a review of the much more in-depth delay pedal, which is the difference engine as well. But I just wanted to give these single pedals a bit of a highlight today. So let's just jump right in with the distortion, which is the Monolith. So first and foremost, let's just look at the layout of this pedal first. We have four dials, and then we have a switch right in the middle there as well, along with obviously the foot switch down there. To break down what each of these dials are doing, we have a D, which is for drive, V for volume, R, which is range, which I'll just touch on in just a little second, and then T is for tone. Now, those three there, the D, the V, and the T, that's pretty standard sort of drive pedal configurations, but where the R comes in really handy is it actually controls the amount of low end cut before the actual clipping hits within the pedal. So it basically just means you can kind of tighten up some pickups if you want to by kind of cutting out some low end, but without sacrificing the entire tone of the pedal or the guitar that you're using. So for example, obviously if you're using some like quite sort of low end kind of humbuckers, then you can use that just to kind of tame it out a little bit depending on what you want out of it. But we're looking into all the three modes that are on this pedal as well. We have D1, we have D2, and we have OD. Distortion 1, Distortion 2, Overdrive. Let's start with D1 here. This is, in Laney's words, it's based off of a very famous orange box distortion, which I think a lot of people will be quite familiar with as well. It's very kind of 80s sounding and it's got quite a bit of range in it as well, but let's just turn that on, see how we're sounding just from where I've left it here. The drive's at about 7, volume at 3, and I do have the range completely off because I'm going to bring that in and actually show you what it's doing. And then tone is actually, I'll turn that up a bit because it was a bit dark there as well. So again, that kind of very, very familiar sort of tone for anybody who is in any way familiar with guitar pedals. There's certainly with this guitar and with the amp configuration that I've got today, that's the Jack by Victory going into the matching cab. And I've got all the EQ set pretty neutral on it as well. When you do get up to that kind of higher range within the tone there, it does kind of start to get that like semi sort of shrill sort of sound as well. But by all means, that's kind of a, it comes with the territory with one of those pedals there, so you may be into that sort of sound as well. Now, touching back on the range, as I said, it's like a low end kind of cut, which, I mean, let's go to like my neck humbucker here, and actually, slight bit of spoiler alert, I guess, for later in the video. I'll turn on the Secret Path reverb here as well, just for a little bit of space for when I'm playing some kind of lead stuff as well, especially on the neck humbucker there. So as you can hear there, it's quite sort of, not dramatically changing your tone. It's still very much like in the settings that you put it for, which I think is one of the benefits of that you're not getting these like dramatic different sweeps of sound. But you just hear it kind of smooths everything out just that little bit more instead of it being like so woofy at the bottom, which, I mean, even if let's turn the tone all the way down, well, nearly all the way down there, put the range just at there, and let's go to just bridge humbucker on kind of rhythmy stuff, just again so you can kind of hear it working properly. Loads of scope there, and I think where that would come in real handy is obviously if you've got a couple of different types of guitar as well, something that's maybe got single coils in it, something that's got humbuckers in it. You're not going to have to get in there and completely shift the tone of the pedal if you are planning on swapping over. Now let's check out Overdrive 2 now, which if our Overdrive 1 was kind of the more heavily compressed sort of sound, this is going to be that just little bit less compressed, a bit more dynamic control when it comes to kind of touch as well. Again, according to Laney, much like the first one based off a very famous orange box there, this one is based off of equally sort of famous purple sparkly box, which let's again just kind of start it off semi-neutral here, and I'll show you how the gain is sort of, the range of the gain, basically. yeah, if you're hearing from that there, that's obviously, it's not getting to that kind of really searing level. Again, it's that kind of more sort of like less compressed, but more kind of dynamically controlled as well, especially if we're maybe rolling that kind of at the, 7 mark on there. Let's just make sure it should get a slightly bit of a warmer tone as well. Bring in some of that range as well, just to, again, kind of get rid of a little bit of the low end, but also darken up the tone a little bit as well there. So play something quite soft, play it a little bit harder as well. You'll hear just exactly how this is working. That one's definitely that kind of little bit more subtle. It's, if you do kind of want, again, kind of a less compressed, kind of more dynamically controlled sort of sound there, that's probably the one to check out as well. I mean, even if we're to roll off just a little bit of the high end again there, just that little bit, and raise it right to the top of the gain. Let's see how this handles, obviously, with more kind of chords and like kind of riffy stuff as well. So yeah, that one's definitely not getting again to that kind of searing level as the first one there, but definitely if you want that kind of mid to, semi-heavy overdrive, then that's probably the one to go for. Now, if we look at the last option, which is our overdrive, this one again going to be very, very familiar to a lot of folk as well, because it's based on a very, very famous green box overdrive, which I don't think there'll be many guesses to what that is there. Again, Laney's own words off of that. But that's actually one thing just to highlight there. I don't know if you've noticed that as I've switched these all over, and this is universal across all 4 pedals there, that there is actually different colors of LED for whatever option you're going to be using there. So if by any means that does actually change while you're playing live, then you know exactly what setting you are going to be on. But let's move to some single coils with this one. Then I'll move to some humbuckers. We'll see exactly what this one is giving us. Not, and again, we're kind of moving down just in terms of what kind of gain structure you are getting off of all those there. That's definitely the least amount that you're going to get. Very much that kind of overdrive sort of setting. So if you throw that in front of any sort of, semi-distorted amp, that's going to sound really good. If you throw it in front of a clean amp, obviously you're going to get kind of that sort of sound as well. Or even like if you want to do the classic sort of green box strategy, I'll pick up my plectrum, sorry. You can kind of down the drive all the way down on that, put the volume all the way up to the top and adjust your tone, and actually the range is actually a really handy thing for that as well. Just to get that kind of really tight sort of metally sound out of like a really high gain amp. It's really, really cool. And the fact you've got all 3 options built into that as well, I think that makes the Monolith definitely one to consider, especially if you want a distortion pedal that's a little bit more versatile. Now, we're going to move just right on to our next one here as well. That is the Steel Park. Now, this one is predominantly a boost, so you're not going to get the most obvious sort of changes with this. It's certainly not to your kind of core tone. Now, to go through all the 3 options again on that one, very, very kind of similar. You know, we're looking at 3 slightly different tones, but all quite in the same sort of family there. Mode number 1 here, which we'll start with. This is a kind of mid-boost sort of thing. It's good for sort of thinner pickups and that. So if we go with that, I'm going to set everything pretty neutral in here as well. Make sure just that nothing is actually overloading our interface at the moment. One difference with this guy as well is that there is actually a bass and a middle control, a bass and a treble control, sorry, on this one, which they have these quite nice notches right in the middle at the 5 mark, which means you're going to be cutting or boosting the frequencies for that. So not only are you getting obviously a boost to your gain or a boost to your volume, but you can also adjust your EQ as well, which comes in really handy. So let's see how this sounds on some intended thinner sounding pickups. That was me obviously diming the drive all the way to the top there as well. And certainly for, you know, for folks, that might be quite a desired sort of rhythm tone as well. You know, it's on that edge of breakup sort of sound. And that's just me just punching the front end of the amp as well there. So that's all coming from the control of the pedal. Now we move over to option 2 there. This is more of a kind of low mids boost here as well. It's going to give you kind of obviously like a much fatter sound than the initial one there as well. So we'll stick with the similar sort of settings. I'll roll this down and then put it up as well. But let's start with the single coils, maybe move over to the humbuckers while I am doing it as well. Very much kind of moving into, again, that kind of like overdrive sort of setting with that as well, showing that the Steel Park's maybe just that little bit more versatile than you would imagine. Now, the center mode there, 0. So we had 1, 2, and now we're on to 0 here as well. This is just a purely clean boost as well, so there's not really much to kind of go over with this. It's going to give you a nice bump to your volume if you do need it for a solo or something like that. So I think for the best situation for this is let me set up the Monolith to a bit of a drive, and then I'll kick on the Steel Park just to show you exactly what that is doing to the signal. Which, yeah, that's kind of the biggest surprise about the Steel Park for me, is the fact that you are getting, like, you know, so much more out of that than you would expect from a boost pedal. The fact that obviously you've got the EQ options there, as well as something, you know, the 3 options, whether it be clean, your low mid boost, or just a standard mid boost as well on there as well. It's going to just give you kind of just a little bit more than you would expect out of something like that. And for the price that that's coming in at the moment as well, I think it's an absolute steal for what you are getting out of that. But let's move on to the modulation and the reverb here in the spiral array, if I could say that properly, and the secret path. Nailed that one. Cool, so if we were to look into the chorus, the spiral array here, this, again, exactly the same sort of configuration as the 2 other pedals that we've already looked at. The 4 knobs and the 3-way toggle switch there. Now, if we were to look in just what all these mean as well, because this is where we kind of start to deviate a little bit as well. The D for this means depth. M means mix, that's going to be how much chorus against your dry signal you're going to be hearing. The R is rate, and then T is tone. Now let's start with our very first setting here, which is this AN at the top. What this is based off of is a kind of 70s Boss CE1 sort of style chorus as well. So I'll get my single coils on the go just now. What I'll do is I'll put the mix at maximum just so you can hear exactly what this is doing, just because I think that's where do you get the most out of the chorus as well. By all means, obviously, you can make it subtler, you can have it all that, but let's hear exactly what this is doing to our signal. So as you heard, that was getting a bit kind of seasick at points there as well, but that's kind of the cool thing about that setting there, is that you can get these really nice sort of washy sounds, but then also if you kind of want to get into that sort of vibrato seasick mode as well, you can indeed. Now, if we're to move on to the other mode, the second one here, what we're getting here is kind of like a late 70s, kind of based on the Roland Dimension C here. So we're moving into that sort of early 80s sound as well. I'm going to keep all the settings again, and then the mix 100% just exactly so you can hear what's going on, but I'll boost up just the tone just a little bit so we can get it just that kind of slightly bit kind of sparklier as well. Kind of getting into those like sort of smoother sort of chorusy sounds from what I am hearing there, certainly. And that one was, I think, famously the Purple Rain one, wasn't it, as well, for the Dimension C? Maybe a bit slower on that one there as well. But if we're moving on to the third option, and this is probably my favourite one out of the batch. This is based off of an 80s tri-stereo chorus by Diatronics as well. This is, for anyone who's listened to any sort of like classic 80s sort of studio guitarists, think like Michael Landau and all those guys there, this is what they were doing here. So just check this sound out as well. It's one of my favourite things with guitar. Now, to me, there's kind of only one sound that I would be using, and that's that proper kind of washy chorus there with like not too kind of like high a depth, but like quite a slow rate as well. Like that's that kind of setting there that I started with, which is the. Which is important to actually mention with this and the next pedal that I'm going to just be looking at in just a second, that the Spiral Array, this is a stereo chorus. This being a stereo chorus setting that's on it as well. We're just going in mono, just with his entire chain here as well. But that'll give you that really, really wide sounding chorus as well, which is just, it's so iconic, and it's again, one of kind of my favorite sounds when it comes to these sort of pedals and those sort of tones. Along with this one and the Secret Path as well, there is an expression pedal option too. So with the Spiral Array, it's basically just going to control the mix of the chorus that you've got set on. So if you do want to bring that in and out, simply just connect an expression pedal into the right hand side of it there, and then that's you sorted. But we're looking at our last pedal of the day, which is the Secret Path Reverb. We've actually been using this in a bunch of videos as of recent as well, so if you have heard any reverb on stuff, more than likely it's going to be this guy here as well. Exactly the same sort of settings as you would imagine. We have a pre-delay there, we have the volume of the reverb. The S stands for the size of it as well, and then the T is going to be the tone, along with the 3 different settings. We have a spring, a plate, and then this one in the middle here says TSP. It stands for the Secret Path, but what that is essentially, it's kind of a room to a hall. That's where the shape comes in there as well, not size, sorry, shape is what that one is. But let's just start with the spring, kind of cycle through just a couple of the sounds here and just show you exactly what is going on with this one. You hear dramatically how that pre-delay affects it as well. So as we'll hear when we kind of move over to the plate, you'll see that if I start to make this kind of just, it's a much bigger sort of sounding reverb here. That pre-delay is just really going to help with help you keeping your notes still clear and audible, obviously, just so they're not getting lost in all of the reverb. So loads of scope, obviously, for size there in terms of the room, and I'm going to go back on exactly what I said because the S does stand for size, it's not shape. Now, before I move on to the Secret Path setting here, I'm going to just show you one of the features of this pedal that the others don't have, and that is actually an enhanced mode. So if you press and hold the foot switch there when you've got the reverb activated, then you'll notice that the LED starts to blink, and what that's going to do on the spring and the plate setting is it's actually going to add modulation to your reverb. And I'll turn it off, back to normal. Now, the good thing about that is that you can actually edit how much modulation you're getting on those two settings, and it will change another setting on the secret path mode, which we'll talk about in just a second as well. But if you press and hold this edit button, it might be hard to see exactly what I'm doing because it's right in the middle, but then if you change the size knob, that'll actually give you more modulation and more of the option on the secret path as well. So here it is with pretty much max modulation. Which is cool because essentially you're getting, you know, another 3 sounds based on that alone there. Which, let's go to the secret path setting. This is based on a large hall, as I said. I'll just show you the kind of range of that as well. And that'll just keep going and going, obviously, just if you leave that there at the max. Now, the pre-delay, obviously, that, as I mentioned, that was kind of coming in really handy for that, but if we're to turn that all the way down there as well, you'll hear just how kind of washy it gets. So an absolute ton of options within the secret path as well. As I mentioned, this is going to be quite in the sort of rotation with our pedal sounds as well. So any future videos that you hear the reverb on, that's probably the one that is going to be getting used. But my kind of takeaway from these pedals here, not only, you know, the kind of cost of them actually is one of the kind of main takeaways. All of these are sub £200 at the moment. Certainly at the moment, the Steel Park is actually coming in at sub £100 as well. But I think with the wealth of tones that you are getting out of these and the flexibility is one of the main things, because for a lot of players, they maybe don't want just one sort of strict sound. You know, you want to be flexible. You've got different types of music you want to play. You've got different types of guitar that you are using. And the fact that, you know, the overdrives there, you've got various different ones for different applications. The chorus there, you've obviously got various different levels of absolute, like, insane wet chorus as well. And then with the secret path, that can kind of be as subtle or as big as you want it. It could be your big, extravagant, shimmery hall reverb there. Or if you just want it as you're always on in the background, plate or spring, then there is an option there as well. We're going to be taking a look at the delay, as I mentioned right at the start of the video, pretty soon as well. There's a lot more going on with that, and that's actually a really cool pedal as well. But that's as much as I really wanted to go over with the Black Country Customs pedals from Laney. I'm really, really impressed with these. I think they're awesome, and certainly get used to hearing a few more of them in videos. But let me know what you think down below if you play any of these pedals or you have tried them out at all. And all the links for our website will be down in the description as well. And if you have enjoyed the video at all, then give us a like and a subscribe, and to keep up with all of our news that's going on at Guitar HQ. But until next time, I've been Kieran, and this has been a look at the Black Country Custom pedals from Laney. Have a good day.